just don't even film a video anymore. Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natasha and I do book things here. I've been gone for like a month, and last time you saw me my hair looked like this, and now it looks like this. And why, you might be wondering? Because I spent 2 weeks in Hawaii, in the ocean.
This is brutal.
In the salt water. In a helicopter. In a boat. Doing all kinds of adventures.
Again.
ATVing.
I think we just won.
All the things. And it's turned into this magical sea witch ombre now. I don't know how to explain it. I've been calling it sea witch as well as neon brown, because that's kind of the color that it turned into. It's been a hot minute, as you can tell, since I filmed. Like, I took a full month off, month and a week. Feeling good, feeling jazzy. Am I jet lagged? Yes, I am. Let's get into my top 10 books of 2019. I don't know about anybody else, but when compiling my list of my top 10 books, I would say most of them were pretty easy. However, there were definitely, like, I don't know, 10 5-star books that I don't remember reading. Like, there was a gap this year for sure where I was out of it, and I don't remember reading. I couldn't tell you what I read, and I definitely forget about 47 books that I've read this year. If you want a video where I talk about books that I forget I read, I can do that for you. Anyway, I am going to go down from 10 to number 1. I actually have them ranked this year. I'm actually really curious how many of these books you guys might guess that are my favorites of the year. I feel like I've talked about the majority of them, but I'm really curious if it's in the order you think it is. We'll see. So my 10th favorite book of the year is The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. I don't know, this did something to me in content and format, which I really like. You'll see that a lot of these books, format was a big part of the reason why I liked it, and I don't know what that says about me, but maybe just that I like more different format. Yeah, that's all that means. 3 girls, but then also a sort of 4th bunch just called The Girls, and it follows their story through their high school and rape culture and what has happened to another girl. It talks a lot about what rape culture means to different girls and how one scenario can mean so many things to different people. This is a bit of a harder one, but one thing I loved about this is that other format of The Other Girls. So it'll take a scene and it'll say, you know, this girl has seen this sort of perspective, and then this perspective, this perspective, this perspective. And it opens it up that, like, rape culture doesn't mean one thing to every girl, or an event doesn't mean one thing to every girl, that it can mean different things. It can mean being empowered, being knocked down. That sort of 4th perspective of all the girls in their high school, or different girls, randomly, you know, unnamed girls. Loved it. But yeah, this is definitely a hard-hitting one for me, a bit more of a serious topic, but I just adored the format, gave it 5 stars, loved it. So going a very different route for my number 9, this is a horror book. This is The Troop by Nick Cutter. This was probably my, well, no, there's another book on here, but this is probably one of my favorite new horror authors to me books. This is the only one on this top 10 list, and this this was a ride. So this is a very, like, traditional body horror. It's graphic, it's gory, it's gross. It follows a Scouts troop on a small Canadian island, and they're trapped there while this sort of person, toxic parasite kind of thing arrives on the island and then sort of seeps into all of them, and it's gross. It's very, very gross. This is not for those who have a sensitive stomach. I personally, one of my biggest, in general, visual fears in horror is bugs going in and out of people, and that happens pretty much the entirety of this book. It's great. It definitely gave me the heebie-jeebies. I put it down at times, and that's what I want from my horror. I want something to elicit, like, an emotion from me, right? And this did it. And again, the format is very much like Carrie. It's told in entries and journal entries, and you kind of know as the reader sort of what is happening from an outsider's perspective, other than the boys and the men on the island. So I like that. Again, it's a formatting thing. It's not just sort of like a single narrative. It's including journal entries and stuff like that. I have 2 romances on this list, so can you guess what they are? Because they're pretty obvious. My number 8 pick of the year is Red, White, and Royal Blue. This is just an adult romance a tale of the son of the first female president of the United States and also royalty, a prince. Yes, it's gay, it's wonderful, it's so good. All the characters are really fleshed out, they're diverse, they're fun. I love the romance, the sort of like taboo-ness behind it all, quote unquote, you know, and what they did with that. And it was just fun. It was fun, it's delightful. I kind of want to reread it. Chelsea's read it a bunch of times. If I'm predicting correct, this is probably her favorite book of the year. I'm just gonna go ahead and predict that in my mind. It is just fun, it was delightful. And it was kind of sexy and kind of cute, and I like the romance, I like their friendships. It's great, it's just good, nice book, and I liked it. I'm so bad at reviewing books that I haven't read in a minute. So my 7th favorite book of the year is another hard-hitting YA contemporary, and this is one I read, I believe, in like January, February, so my details are a little skewed, but I just know that it like wrecked me. It is A Heart in a Body in the World. Nope, A Heart in a Body in the World. Okay. That title, hope I never have to say it again because it's rough. This book is just a beautiful, beautiful book. This is, I don't know, man, this is something I didn't know that I needed when I read it. So this follows a girl who is going on this crazy long distance run, and her grandfather is following her in an RV. Love a grandfather relationship. It's one of my, that's something I just love in a book. Throughout the course of the book you realize what she's running towards and what she's running from, and it's very hard-hitting, it's very emotional, it's a lot of internal dialogue for the things that she's dealing with, but also a light-hearted grandfather friendship and stuff, relationship in this, and it's wonderful and it's beautiful, and I cried I believe at this book at the ending, and it's something. So if you haven't read this yet, this is a really popular book, sort of mid 2018, I want to say, is when this came out, and everybody was like pushing to read it. This was in a lot of 2018 favorites, but because I backlist read so many things, sort of, you know, I say older books, but really this is like more popular the previous year, comes up in the following year for me. So if this is sitting on your shelves and you have yet to get to it, highly recommend it. So next up in my number 6 book of the year is a thriller. Shocker, I know. Didn't quite make my top 5, but it was dang good, and it gave me feelings. I like books that give me feelings, apparently, as I think we all do. It's sort of, you know, that's why we read, I hope. Finally, a 5-star Ruth Ware. This is To Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, and this was so much fun to read. This follows the story of a girl who is taking up a nannying position for this couple and their kids, and the house is very technologically advanced, as in like she doesn't really know how to control it and what it's doing and if it's watching and if it's listening and all this stuff. So as you're reading this book and you're sort of following the journey of this character, you know ahead of time that she is currently in jail or prison for the suspected murder of one of the kids. And you sort of lose that. I'm not gonna lie. You read it initially and then you lose it. I definitely did. And it was one of those things where it's like, is it Ghost? Is it the house? Is it the creepy kids? Who is that person? What is these people doing? And it kept me page turning, and like I think I tweeted somewhat live while I was reading this, and I was like, what is happening? Like what is going on in this house? While I thought it was, you know, XYZ, it ended up being, you know, 4. It kept me flipping right to the last page. The last page was fantastic. So this was definite 5-star. It takes a lot to get a 5-star like thriller mystery out of me because I see a lot of stuff coming. I don't read a lot of them, but because I think my brain goes there, I listen to a lot of true crime, and I just sort of, I don't know, I have a wild imagination when it comes with mystery thriller books, so a lot of them don't really get me. This one got me. It was good. I liked it a lot. But moving on, we're now in the top 5. I think there might be some surprises in here, maybe not, I don't know. My 5th favorite book of the year was one that took me by surprise. I didn't hear about it until I went to BEA, and I'm not gonna lie, it was probably the book that I left BEA maybe the most excited to read, just in that it was fucking weird, and that is, hello, my brand. Odd, weird books, I like them. Like, I don't know what to tell you. This is Hollow Kingdom by Kira James Buxton. Now, I met her at BookCon, got her to sign my book and stuff, and I didn't know what to really, what was this was about. And it was pitched as a crow, a domesticated crow named Shit Turd, who really likes Cheetos in a post-apocalyptic setting. And that's what it is. It's so much more than that, though. It follows the inner dialogue of domesticated animals as there is an apocalypse for humans, and what that means for them, and what it looks like, and the sort of emotional abandonment and hardships that they face. And this book, did something to me. I had to stop reading this for like about a month because that sort of premise where it was like, you know, what happens to our animals if there's a human apocalypse, it upset me. And I cried several times at this, and proceeded to read the rest of it and cry several more times. It's funny, it's weird, it's unlike anything I've ever read. It's a post-apocalyptic crow, post-apocalyptic look at animals and their dialogue, and octopus are amazing. That's all I have to say. You need to pick this up because it was a ride. Number 4 is my favorite Stephen King of the year. I was surprised actually that a Stephen King made my list this year because I read, I think, 8 Stephen King, and this is the only one that I rated 5 stars, and the only one that I really truly liked and sort of moved up into my favorite Stephen King. Shocker if you guys don't know what this is. That is Christine, and this, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. This is a long book, okay? So my copy is close to 800 pages, 750 or something like that. And one of the longest books that I read of the year. This follows Arnie and his car named Christine, and it is just a spooky, weird, haunted car. And let me tell you, when I said I read 500 pages of this book and it felt like I read 3, the way that I can describe it is that it's slow, and Stephen King perfectly builds up characters and surroundings and the town and the car, and it feels like you can just picture every single thing. At least in my mind it did. I like more slow books like that where it really grounds itself in, you know, making that visual, so that when the big sort of reveal happens or when the big climax happens, you're right there. And that was Christine. Like, I was just, I don't know, just eating up everything about this, and I just loved the uneasiness that this car gave people. It was just perfectly spooky, and I freaking loved it, man. It's one of my top favorite Stephen King books, and if you've been interested in reading it and you haven't read it yet, I suggest it. It's great. My 3rd favorite book, my camera battery is dying, so I want to make this fast. 3rd favorite book of the year, a fantasy. Who knew? I didn't think that I was gonna like this, but everyone hyped it up, and it was for good reason, and I freaking loved it. And that is Middle Game by Seanan McGuire. Not gonna lie, read this because of Kayla, as I do most of the books on my list. She just has recommendations, and I know the books that she recommends that are going to be stuff that I like, and that ends up being true most of the time. Yeah, so I picked this up based on the fact that she doesn't typically read fantasy, neither do I. She loved it. I was like, okay, let's give this a shot. It is, again, formatting, unlike anything that I've read. And I like that. It's so strange. It follows these twins, Roger and Dodger, and their sort of creation. I don't know how to describe this book. Their creation and their plan, and an overview of that. I don't know, you come to find out what this means though in the book, and it's cool. Because you look at this, you're like, oh, that's just a freaking weird hand. Jenna Marbles did it once in a video, you know? And then you realize what this means, and when it happens in the book, you're like, well, shit, that doesn't describe this at all. But yeah, this is all about those twins and godlike statuses and math and words, and it's just great. If you haven't picked it up yet and you're looking for something strange and different and you want to dive into adult fantasy, at least in a way that like made sense to me, this is great. I loved it. So number 2, a romance that made me just feel good when I read this. And this was read when I was having a tough time and my neck was all messed up. It gave me good vibes, so I think maybe I don't say that's why it's a 5, it's a great book, but it's definitely just brought me out of my own head in that moment, and I can appreciate that. That is The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary, and this is an adult romance between Tiffy and Leon, and it's great. The premise is so stupid, but it's great. She needs an apartment, he's got one, there's one bed, he's in it in the evening, she's in it in the daytime, or vice versa, I forget now. But basically, they never see each other, and they have one bed, you know, and they leave notes for each other, and their love blossoms, and she's dealing with a bit of a dark past, he's there to help her. It's great. I loved the discussion of consent in this book. It's wonderful. Realizing things about themselves, and it's great. It's a great romance, and it's one of my favorites of the year, and I love it. And I'm going to be comparing most romance books now to this one because nailed it. So lastly, my number 1 book of the year, and this is the book that I have probably talked about the most and have told people to read and would not shut up about at work for months. Oh, I just absolutely adore this, and again I can thank Carola for this recommendation because it blew me away. That is Dig by A.S. King, and this book, that's all I have to say. Just big old chef's kiss to this. This is, again, a format that I've never read, and it's so weird and surrealist and fantastic, and I love it. Characters that don't really have a name. It's the shoveler, the freak, Can I Help You, Loretta the flea circus ring mistress, and First Class Malcolm. And it follows those 5 characters, and throughout the book you come to realize what those names mean, their connections with each other, and what it all means. So yeah, when you start this book, you're like, what the fuck am I reading? And it ended up being the best reveal, and it's just so cool, and I've never read a format like this, and I both want to read more, but then I also want to keep this in its own little package. I don't know if that makes sense. Absolutely love this. I've talked about this book to so many people, it's kind of ridiculous, and yeah, I just absolutely adore it. So that is my number 1 book of 2019. These are my top 10. Can we just go ahead and say that, like, you know, props for me being able to even hold up 10 books? JK, I'm dropping them. This past year was a freaking ride, okay? I hurt myself. I wasn't able to use my hand for like 2 months. And here I am holding up my top favorite books. So yeah, anything is doable. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Did you guess my top 10? Did you know it was in here? Are you surprised by anything? Do you have any new books to add to your list? Whatnot? Do you think my hair looks stupid? Don't answer that. Yeah, hopefully everyone is doing good. I'm so happy to be back and be making videos again, and I just can't wait to, I don't know, see what 2020 had in store. Weird. Yeah, so hopefully everyone's doing good, and I will talk to you later. Bye.